Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda, and this is The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast. Today we are talking about your newsletter list. Do you have one?
Yeah. I have a newsletter.
Do you have a newsletter? Do you have a list? What's the purpose? Why is everybody talking about how much we need these? Let's break it down.
Team newsletter or not team newsletter?
I'm team newsletter. I have a newsletter that goes out.
She's always been team newsletter.
Twice, 3 times a week, depending on the company. Yeah.
I do it because my team, because we're in the team, but I see the advantage of it. And it's definitely something that I personally didn't make capacity for, but I can guarantee you it will help you so much in your business. So let's break it down.
I think the first thing people are confused about is like, what the heck is a newsletter? What's the purpose of it? And I'm going to break down the separation between an email list and a newsletter because those are separate things and you should have both. In my opinion, you should have both. Particularly though, you need an email list. And I'm sure, hopefully you've heard about the purpose of an email list is that you don't own your social media following. At any point, any social media company could shut down. The TikToks, the Instagrams, they've all had a shutdown, blew our minds for the 24 hours that it existed. The people who had an email list didn't really suffer for that. You own those lists, you own those names for all intents and purposes, and you can actually market to them outside of the social media sphere. And a lot of times that can be really helpful, not only because it's a more captive audience, but because you can market to them in a very specific way. You can make segments around them. So like, this is my male population, this is my female, these are the people who live in Timbuktu, and these are the ones who live in Akron, Ohio. Like, you can separate out and segment out within an email list so that you're getting really targeted messaging, and you can have them choose what they want to get information on. So if they only want to hear about your sales, then they're on a sales list. If they only want to hear about underwater basket weaving contest, then they're going to get that information. So being able to really segment them out makes your marketing and your messaging so much easier because you can really target who you're talking to. When it comes to social media, you have messaging and there's strategy, I hope, around that. But when it comes to an email list, you can get even more hyper-focused because you have their information. You've had an ability to connect with them and create a relationship and segment them out so that you know what they're interested in hearing from. Now, a newsletter is information beyond just sales. Maybe it's education around what you do. Recommend it's behind the scenes. Maybe it's creating more of a relationship. Maybe it's talking about your brand. It can be a lot of things. It can also be sales. In fact, we recommend that you talk about sales all the living long day. In fact, more than you probably are. But I know a lot of people get scared with newsletters. They think no one wants to hear. They're going to get scared away if they get a newsletter from me. No, they won't. The same thing I think I used in our first book. I think I talk about all the time. I'm on Macy's list. I haven't been to a Macy's in years and I haven't unsubscribed. They send me multiple emails every week and texts and I still haven't unsubscribed from them. Maybe I'm just really lazy, or maybe it doesn't bother me. And it probably doesn't bother people as much as you think it does.
A newsletter is just a segmented side of your email list, right? So they have opted in to get your newsletter and then they end up on your generic email list as well, just to clarify that. So yes, newsletters, I do like a good newsletter every once in a while. And every time I use the Macy's example, I think of like all the ones that I haven't unsubscribed to. I've unsubscribed to a lot, but all the ones that I haven't, because I like to stay in the know. I want to see the pretty things that pop up every once in a while. And that's really what a newsletter is. It just continues to build relationship from more of a passive yet engaged. It can be very specific, but it can be extremely passive at the same time. And it's just like this nurturing type of informational, and you can ask for engagement in it as well, source for your clients or prospects, anybody on your newsletter list. It's also a great way to alert people of the other things that you do, because they might only know that you run trainings, or you talk about this topic, or you talk about that topic, or you talk about this topic. So it can really help them expand the knowledge around you that they have about you, which could create more revenue. It could create more referrals. It can create longer term client relations. Yeah.
And it's just keeping you front of mind. If you only talk to your people once a year when you have your Black Friday sale, they're not going to remember who you are and they're not going to care as much about buying from you versus somebody that they've literally talked to every week for the last year. I mean, think of it from a person to person connection. I only see you once a year. I better be a really freaking good friend or you're not going to talk to me. But if you see me every single week, you at least know you have a passing acquaintance with me and you're more likely to remember me when I come around at Black Friday, ask for a big buy. So the newsletter also has that sense of keeping you present in their daily lives, because I'm sure you have a few emails in your inbox, Lynn, that you haven't opened. Me too. And just because I haven't opened the email doesn't mean I don't see that name pop up like, oh yeah, that company, that company. So when I do need something from that company, I'm reminded like, oh yeah, that company sold me those really cool etched whiskey glasses last year. And I wanted to buy those for my cousin. Even if I never open the email, I still see that name go through. I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember liking that pair of earrings I bought from them. Or I had a great time at that trip that I went on with that company. Like it just keeps you present of mind. And that can go a long way when you do eventually ask for a buy, when you ask for a sale. At least you are memorable. I mean, there's plenty of newsletters and like lead magnets I've signed up for that I never opened and never really cared about. And then those are the people I unsubscribe from because I don't really like, who are these people? Like I didn't buy anything. I didn't connect with them. There's nothing there. So that's the purpose of a newsletter, is to get you more in their minds so that they're more likely to open at some point in general.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are certain people who I have not unsubscribed to, many that I have, and certain ones that I haven't just because. For Justin, as my friend Josh would say, for just in case. Also, a newsletter could be, depending on your content and the type of person you are, it could humanize you to your audience, to the people who are signing up. And why that's important is because people buy from people. They buy from people who they feel that they can relate to, see themselves with, et cetera, or want to be. And so if you're writing your content appropriately, it can humanize you, not just for the prospects, but for your clients. It lets them feel like they're not just another number and that you're not just this person taking their money, that you are there as a person as well. And that plays such an important role in business. And we don't focus enough on humanizing each other from a business owner standpoint of view to the client. Yeah, it definitely can help with that. Another thing is you can actually start to engage your newsletter list. It wasn't too long ago, I wrote in one of ours, is anybody even reading this? And a few of our clients and people in our network that weren't our clients reached out to me and were like, yeah, I do. And this is what I want to see. And this is what I want to see. Because I asked, if you're reading this, what do you want to see? And they gave us advice. And I thought that was great. First of all, it gives us a gauge that people actually are. I mean, the open rate's one thing, but reading it's something else. Yeah. And we can't gauge, nobody can gauge that. You could see maybe how long they stayed on that if you have a bit better analytics on that page where your newsletter is, but that still doesn't mean that they're reading it. They could have popped it up, got distracted by a call, and it sat on top of their desktop. It's true. Like at the end of the day, we don't know unless we're in the room with them discussing it. And so I love this idea of asking questions in the newsletter and seeing if we can get engagement, or having like the contest in the newsletter or something silly that maybe they post or whatnot. So that way you can create action based on, or engagement based on the newsletter. And it's a very casual place to do that, in my opinion.
I know. And I was just over here laughing because I've also used that same strategy with an internal newsletter amongst employees to be like, if you actually finish this entire email, then you get $5. So reach out to me saying you want your $5 and I'll give you your cash. Just by putting little nuggets in there that are inside jokes almost. It doesn't always have to be cash. That was just an example. But it can give people this sense of like, ooh, I have an inside touch. Maybe it's a special discount code. Maybe it's you'll be on a list for the latest launch, or you get this special lead magnet or whatever. Like this download, you can kind of track what people are clicking on and what interests them and how much engagement you get. So there's a lot of things you can do with a newsletter. We want to talk about is, what do you talk about in a newsletter? Like, what's the point? What topics do you cover in a newsletter? Now, this is going to vary based on your business. It should be around your top 5 pillars of what are the things that you talk about in your business? What are the things that you have to talk about in your social media content? What are the things that are important? And a bit more personality about who you are as a brand or as a person, depending on what you're selling, what your business is. It doesn't have to be complicated, and you can decide how often they go out. I recommend at least once a month. I know depending on your audience, you can get away with much less or much more depending on what you're selling. But I think it's completely feasible to write 12 a year and have those set out. But you're talking about your content. You're talking about education. You're talking about the things that are important to your brand, and ideally the things that are important to your target audience, because that's why they subscribe to you in the first place.
Yes. So strongly suggest that that template is set up pre-launching, right? You can always upgrade it. You can always refresh it, but have that template, and you can get free templates everywhere, like a template in your CRM, a template in Canva, lots of them out there. But that way you kind of know, okay, I need 4 topics to talk about, or like this one will always be this. For example, Amanda and I have both of us talk about our week, then we give a tip of the week, and then we give actions based on that tip. So we have kind of 3 sections each besides a photo of a week for our newsletter. And so we know that it's going to have X amount of sections. Now we do ours every week, but like Amanda said, you can actually write 12 based on your content pillars, based on what you do. You can write them all within a weekend if you wanted to. So that way they're already scheduled out, and you can make changes if you need to, because maybe this topic is more relevant right now than another topic, or you can kind of switch them around. But like we've said many times in the past, we don't need to overcomplicate it. You just need to create it and stay consistent. One other thing about timing we always say is always err on the side of caution. You'd rather stay consistent versus like go balls to the wall and then kind of fall short. So if you want a weekly newsletter, maybe start out bi-weekly first, or write 6 months worth of them if you're going to do it that way. When we first started our podcast, we knew we wanted to go eventually to once a week, but we decided on every other week instead. That's because until we kind of got in the habit and got it really underneath our belt, because you want to stay consistent. So making sure that you have that template, you have it all bucketed out, you know what sections will be kind of what. So it might be the joke of the week, it might be this, it might be that, but each section kind of has its own like theme, if you would. It makes it easy for you to be able to kind of write about or use ChatGPT, Chad, and then your consistency level.
And it doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be long.
No.
My personal newsletter that I have for my business, I have it set at the very top, like a weekly-ish newsletter, because there are definitely weeks that it doesn't happen because I'm traveling or because life is lifing. So I claim it right there. And then I make a point. My newsletter is always really short because personally, I don't like to read novels in my Monday morning emails. And so I make them short on purpose. So you can decide how complicated or not complicated it is. You don't have to have this novel that you're putting out every week. It can be short and to the point. Depending on what your brand is, that might be your brand as well. So think about how your brand factors into the voice that you're speaking in your newsletters as well. The other thing I will say, 2 things, one thing from technical and one thing from just a personal preference. So technically speaking, more than 80% of people are using their mobile device to check their newsletters. So please, for all that is holy, don't put a PDF inside your newsletter and expect people to zoom in and scroll and try to read it. They're not going to. Make it text-based. I mean, you want pictures. Obviously, it's more engaging, but you want to make sure the text is at least 11-point font, if not more like 14, because most people are reading it on their mobile device. So from a technical...
From all the screens.
Yeah, we're blind from all the screens. So please make sure that it is legible and check, like if it's your first one out.
Yes.
Send it to yourself and look at it on mobile first, because it really does make a difference. I mean, I love to make them on desktop. Ooh, they're so pretty on desktop, but people are reading them on mobile. So make sure that you're double checking that. And if you have nothing else in your sequence to start, have a welcome sequence. In our show notes today, we're putting our cheat sheet welcome sequence in there. So if you don't know what to put in your welcome sequence, scroll down, you can find our cheat sheet for a welcome sequence. But it's just a way for people, when they sign up for your newsletter, they should at least get one email that says, hey, welcome to the newsletter, or something.
Yeah, we're excited.
Something. We can't say, hey, welcome to the newsletter, and then 6 months later, you remember to send a newsletter. So we want a welcome sequence. It is a way to initiate people into who you are and what your brand is. And so we want to make sure that's there. So if you don't have one, or you want to steal ours anyway, scroll down in those show notes and you can grab that right there.
Yes. I think that's about it. I thought of one other bonus.
Yes.
I thought of one other bonus. This is the luxury of us being together. It's a different dynamic. One other bonus is you can actually promote others in your newsletter. If Amanda and I didn't work together, or even with our separate newsletters, which I don't have for my personal brand personally, but if I did and we weren't working together, then I can have Amanda as a guest speaker, newsletter submission, or I can highlight her, or I can highlight my favorite links, the favorite affiliate links, right? So newsletters are a great way to highlight others and or highlight your affiliate links to say, this week I was loving my Canva, If you haven't had Canva yet, here's my affiliate link, which I know Canva doesn't do. Canva.
I know they don't do it anymore. They did in the beginning.
They did.
And they stopped because they realized how
But-
awesome they were. I get it.
They are.
I get it.
I get it too. But that was my last little nugget.
Well, beyond that, your newsletter is still an opportunity to sell. In fact, I think almost every single one of my newsletters has some kind of sale aspect to it, whether it's an affiliate link, whether it's a summit that I'm in and I'm talking about, or I'm selling tickets to a speaking event or one of our workshops or masterclasses. There's always an opportunity to reach out. The other thing I will say is you do not have to have a huge newsletter list, an email list to make money. And I have a couple of people that I work with who are like, oh, well, if I just had over 1,000 or if I just have more than 10,000, whatever number is in their head. But it's not about how many people you have. It's about how engaged they are. And it's how willing they are to spend money, just like with your social media followers.
It's not about the size. It's how you use it.
That's right. Motion of the ocean. The point is, it's really, you get to decide how important those people are. Because if you have just 10 people, but those 10 people always buy, then it's still a good newsletter list. It's still a good list. And now, obviously, we want to grow the list because more eyes on our products and services is more opportunity to grow your business. However, don't poo-poo the people that you have that are backing you up. Yes, we all start with our mom on our newsletter list. Okay. The newsletter list starts with like the 6 alter egos that you've created and your multiple email accounts and like your mom. And that's okay. You can start there because you only have room to grow. If you're discouraged about that number, or you've been 50 subscribers for the last 3 years, you don't know what to do, well, then reach out to us because we can tell you how to grow from there. However, it's really okay to just start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. Everybody starts with 0. Everybody starts with their mom and their fake email account. Okay. Everybody starts there. So starting is the point. You got to start, even if it's just with your mom.
I started with my kids.
See?
Yeah.
I started with my 6 alter egos, my other email lists.
That's a whole other podcast. We'll talk about that later.
Are you pro newsletter? Or are you anti? Or are you indifferent at this point? Or do you have no idea what it is if you've never heard about it before?
Anyway, if you enjoyed this podcast, hit like, subscribe, and share with somebody who you feel could use a little nudge in the newsletter world. And if you have any additional points or comments that you'd like to make, leave them below in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you.
Always, always. Well, until next time.
Get after it. All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.